Let's just face it, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been one of the worst teams in football for almost their entire existence. Sure, they have a ring to their name, but in the year of our Lord 2013, they once again find themselves at the bottom of the division. They have the worst winning percentage of anybody, not just in the NFL, but of all four major sports. They couldn't even luck out in the draft as they fell all the way to the 7th pick. At least they could maybe make something good out of it?
With the 7th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Mike Evans, wide receiver, Texas A&M.
Well, Mike Evans is certainly a good choice. During his time with Texas A&M, he put up almost 2,500 yards and 17 touchdowns in 2 years. In the Combine, he put up impressive numbers. Maybe, along with our new latest and greatest quarterback, Josh McCown, they can make things work, and the Bucs can be decent this year? I mean, hell, they even got new fancy uniforms. Surely the fans will come to love them.
From the 43-yard line of Carolina, McCown quick toss is caught. Steps back at the 40-yard line.
Well, Evans at least put up a good effort, going 5 for 9 with 37 yards, and the next week he went 4 for 4 with 49. If only the rest of the team could play well. Well, we're on Thursday Night Football against the Falcons. Maybe this will be the time to make our presence known. Well, Evans got 52 yards, and hey, the next week he actually scored his first touchdown against Pittsburgh. And they finally won! It's time to turn this ship around, baby. We're coming for that NFC South crown! Well, shit. The Bucs did even worse than last year. I guess that's just how it is. Say, how'd Evans do?
2nd and 10, Glennon towards the end zone, caught for the touchdown! Now looking to the end zone. And what a throw and what a catch for a touchdown, 2nd and 8. Looking to the end zone, and Evans went up and got it, and that is a touchdown from Mike Evans.
And here comes the fade to Evans, and Evans is there for the touchdown. Mike Evans in a jump ball against Josh Norman, the cornerback. And Evans with his 11th touchdown catch of the season, beat in and control.
Well, goddamn. He actually had a really good rookie campaign. In Week 8, he recorded his first 100-yard game against Cleveland, then put up 100 more against those damn Falcons, and then 200 against Washington, the youngest player ever to put up 200 yards in a game. I'll say, this guy might be legit. He put up 1,054 yards and 12 touchdowns this year. This is a weird feeling. Is this hope? Hope that we actually have a legitimate wide receiver? I mean, a 1,000-yard season is really good, but what if it's just a fluke? Can he actually keep it going? And if so, for how long?
How much does your upbringing motivate you on the football field? Through college and now in the NFL, how much does that push you to be as good as you can be?
Motivates me a lot. You know, my father passed away when I was 9 years old, and man, he was big on sports. You know, he wanted me to just play sports. You know, when I was a kid, I liked playing sports. But when he died, I started playing everything with an edge about me because I wanted him to be proud of me. He's up looking down on me now. And I just use that as motivation, my father.
Mike Evans was born in 1993 in Galveston, Texas, and grew up to be a big football fan. He and his father would play ball together and watch games when he came home from school. He learned how to shoot a basketball and throw a football from his father, as the love of the game was imprinted early on him, and dreams of becoming an NFL star were plentiful. 2014 saw one of the best rookie seasons in Buccaneer history, but as 2015 came around, Evans suddenly found himself with big expectations. He was seen as one of the best rookies in the league, and was ranked number 75 by his peers in the list of best NFL players, and the Bucs were hoping to build their future core around him. Would he rise up, or would he disappoint? Well, he would miss the first game of the season due to a hamstring injury, and in week 2 he only had 3 targets, and missed all of them. But in week 3, he bounced back with another 100-yard performance against the Texans. He would continue to put up mild numbers until week 6, where he lit up Washington once again with 8 catches and 164 yards, including his first touchdown of the season. He followed that up with back-to-back 100-plus yard games in weeks 8 and 9, although that week 8 game did only see him go 8 and 19. He recorded his second touchdown against Philly in week 10, and would only get one more to finish the year with 3, a big fall from his 12 last year. But he was able to keep the yards coming, with him getting 60-plus in all but one of his last 7 games, including a 157-yard performance against the Rams. The next week, he surpassed his previous mark of 1,054, and he finished 2015 with 1,206 yards. While he put up more than last year, 2015 was still seen as a downgrade from the previous year, especially with him only scoring 3 touchdowns. His catch percent dropped too, finishing 2015 with exactly 50. However, he was still able to get about 8 yards per catch, which still led the team by a mile. And it was helped that he got a new quarterback. Since the Bucs were absolutely terrible last year, they got the first overall pick, and used it to select Jameis Winston. Now, Winston's gotten up to his own share of mischievous actions, from stealing crab legs to doing some naughty stuff in an Uber. But for now, he at least served as an improvement over Mike Glennon, as he and Evans helped bring the team up to an astonishing 6-10. I mean, at least they weren't the worst team in the league anymore. With a new coach in Dirk Cutter, the 2016 Bucs had high hopes going into the season, but despite a win in week 1, they lost the next 3. Evans would produce well, however, scoring a touchdown in each of his first 3 games, already matching last year, and becoming the first player in Bucs history to record a touchdown in the first 3 games of the season. After week 4, he was already at 360 yards, including a 132-yard performance once again against the Rams. He would go 8 and 13 against the Niners in week 6, including scoring 2 touchdowns, but his biggest performance would come a couple weeks later against the Falcons, where he went 11 and 17 with 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, including this absolutely magnificent catch. Also, due to that hit, he was placed on concussion protocol briefly, but he was able to return the next week, and just in time too, as the 3-5 Bucs needed a boost to save their season. Thus began something incredibly rare for the Bucs, a 5-game winning streak, including back-to-back 100-yard games in weeks 10 and 11 that saw him eclipse 1,000 yards for the 3rd time, becoming only the 4th player ever to start their career with 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. With the Bucs now at 8-5, suddenly the playoffs seemed like a good possibility, and Evans was eager to finally get his chance at competing for the Lombardi Trophy. However, the Cowboys would shut things down in week 15, as although the Bucs were able to make it close, they would lose, as Evans would only go 4 for 8 with 59 yards on the day. The next week, they lost again, and their playoff hopes further diminished. They had a slim chance to sneak in week 17, but they needed a win, Washington to tie, and Green Bay to lose. While the Bucs did their part and beat the Panthers, including another touchdown from Evans to match his season high with 12, the Packers would win, leaving the Bucs as the odd team out. Despite the disappointing end, Evans would finish with his best season yet, posting 1,321 yards. He was selected to the Pro Bowl for the first time, and heading into 2017, he was ranked number 29 by his peers on the list of best players in the league. It was clear that Evans was becoming a bona fide star, and Bucs fans were excited to see this man lead his team into the playoffs for the first time since the 07-08 season. It seemed like nothing could go wrong for the young wide receiver. While he was growing up, his mom, Heather Kilgore, was fighting to keep the family together. Evan's father, Michael Sr., displayed signs of trouble from the moment they met, as Heather would have Mike at only 14 years old. And the next year she had a daughter, Lauren Evans. During Mike's childhood, there were incidents of Michael Sr. abusing Heather, and in 1998 he was arrested for assault on another woman. This left Heather to care for Mike and Lauren all by herself, which she would do to the best of her ability.
She was a grinder. You know, she made sure we had the best Christmases, the best birthdays. Even though we were a less fortunate family, she made sure we had what we needed.
"2017 would turn out to be an ugly year for both Evans and the team, as despite a promising 2-1 start, the team would plummet, losing 5 in a row. Evans performed well enough, with a 93-yard game in Week 2 and 95 in Week 6, but his performance was dipping, and his frustrations were beginning to boil. A brief incident in Minnesota was the first sign, but it would come to a head in Week 9, as the Bucs played their hated rival, the New Orleans Saints. It was here that Evans would come face to face with his own personal rival. Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback for the Saints, would get all up in Winston's face, as Jameis was probably saying something stupid, and then Evans would come out of nowhere to slam Lattimore to the ground. He would later admit his wrongdoings, claiming he let his emotions get the better of him, but while he wasn't ejected from the game, he would be suspended for the next one. With 7 games left, Evans was only at 532 yards, only a little more than halfway to 1,000. In his return, he had 2 strong games, putting up 92 and 78 yards respectively. But then he put up 2 of the worst games in his career, only getting 58 yards in those 2 games. With 3 left to play, Evans still needed 240 yards to reach 1,000, and judging by his performance this year, it looked like the streak was finally coming to an end. In Week 15, he would rebound, going 5 for 8 and finally notching his first touchdown since Week 7. He got 79 yards on that day, but still needed 161 more. Against the Panthers, Evans had his best game of the year, posting 107 yards, and heading into the last week of the season, he was only 54 away. It's almost like he became aware of the streak and was doing everything in his power to maintain it. I mean, right after his 2 pitiful games, the Bucs were eliminated from playoff contention, en route to another terrible 5-11 record. He had nothing else to play for but his own personal honor. Funnily enough, the final game of the season was against the Saints, including another visit from Lattimore, but would that be enough to stop him? As the Bucs began their opening drive, Evans would take a pass up the middle for a 12-yard gain, which would result in a touchdown. However, the Saints would return the kickoff for a touchdown of their own, and on the next drive, a pass intended for Evans was intercepted by Marcus Williams. The Saints would score again, and as the first quarter came to an end, Mike wouldn't get anything else, as a deep pass attempt would fall incomplete. After 3 more incompletions, Evans would head into the locker room at halftime with only 12 yards to his name, and he still needed 42 more. At least the Bucs were able to get another touchdown, though of course they would miss the extra point. The third quarter wasn't much better, as Evans would be intercepted again by Williams, and he once again wouldn't get anything. And as the minutes ticked away, it looked like it was all but over for the streak. With 6 minutes remaining, he would finally get back on the score sheet with a 9-yard game, putting him 33 away. However, the Bucs were only able to get a field goal on the drive, cutting it down to 24-23. And with the Saints getting the ball back with 4 minutes left, it seemed Evans wouldn't get his chance to reach the mark. However, the defense would hold firm, stopping the Saints from scoring, though they did have to use all their timeouts and the 2-minute warning. With 1:58 on the clock, Evans and the Bucs had one last chance to win the game and reach the milestone, and Winston knew he had to help his teammate out. On 3rd and 10, another pass Evans' way would fall incomplete, but Cameron Brate was able to convert on 4th down to keep the drive alive. Then, Winston and Evans would link up for 9 yards. The very next play, Evans would be targeted again, though it would be incomplete. Despite that, Winston would throw to Evans for the 3rd straight play, gaining another 9 yards. Now Mike sat 15 yards away, and with 40 seconds left on the very next play, Evans would catch another one and walk out of bounds at the 49. How many yards did he get? 16. A few plays later, Winston would connect with Godwin, who ran 39 yards for the score, and Evans would seal the deal by absolutely mossing Lattimore for the 2-pointer. The Bucs would win, and while in the grand scheme of things it didn't really mean anything, it was a symbolic victory, as Bucs fans had something to be proud of, as Evans would somehow pull it off, finishing with 1,001 yards on the season. Somehow, someway, Evans pulled through once again, reaching 1,000 yards for the 4th year in a row, joining Randy Moss and A.J. Green as the only ones ever to do it. In 2001, Mike's dad was released from prison, as well as his uncle, Sam Kilgore, who had served 10 years for burglary and attempted murder, and he moved into the house to live with the family. The relationship between Sam and Mike Sr. was a tumultuous one, as Sam was furious with how his sister was being treated. Once, after Mike Sr. punched a can into Heather's mouth, Sam responded by pulling out 2 knives, but the situation de-escalated. All the while, Mike slept soundly in his bed upstairs. Michael Sr. was arrested again for 30 days for assault, but even after he was released, and despite pleas from Sam, Mike Sr. would return to the house. On March 9, 2018, Mike Evans signed a 5-year, $82.5 million extension, as he had earned his status as one of the best men on the team. He would reward the Bucs with perhaps the greatest season of his career, with 367 yards in the first 3 games, as the team, powered by Fitz magic, jumped out to 2-0 before losing on Monday Night Football to the Steelers. Of course, in typical Bucs fashion, they quickly fell off after that, as they would finish 5-11 for the 2nd year in a row. But Evans would remain hot all year, as in Week 3 he would break the franchise record for touchdown receptions with his 35th. 3 weeks later, he would become the leader in receiving yards, as he posted his 16th and 17th 100-yard games, also new franchise records. That Week 8 performance against the Bengals was his best this year, with a 179-yard game, including a 72-yard run for a touchdown, After a down week against the Panthers where he only had one catch for 16 yards, he rebounded again with back-to-back 100-yard games, with Week 12's 116-yard performance getting him once again over the 1,000 mark for the 5th straight year, finishing with 1,524. He also became the youngest receiver ever to hit 6,000 yards in total, and he was selected to his 2nd straight Pro Bowl. It was a time of joy for Evans and his family, as through the Mike Evans Family Foundation, they hosted 3 holiday events for the community, including charity bowling tournaments, serving food for kids at a local shelter, and giving tours of the practice facility to young children. He had always been committed to give a better life, not just to his own children, but to others in the area who had been suffering. After all, no one deserves to go through what he did on that one fateful night. October 6th, 2002. Mike and his dad were out playing football, and they spent the night watching movies until Mike went to bed, as Heather went out. She would meet Sam in downtown Galveston, and on a phone call with Mike Sr., he insisted that she come home early, to which Sam, being heavily intoxicated, objected. He would leave while Heather was in the bathroom, claiming he had a headache. Later that night, Heather pulls up to the house to find police and ambulances surrounding the place. She walks out of her car and looks to the street. There's a body in the road. The police escort Mike and Lauren to their grandmother's house, while officers investigate the crime scene. The man had been shot in the forehead and had been stabbed 27 times in the back. Lauren already knew what happened. Michael Evans Sr. was dead, killed by Sam Kilgore. During the time that passed, Mike grew to become the man of the house, though he would struggle with dealing with the loss of his father. He knew he had to move on, to grow and become a better person, and to live a better life. He also knew that he had to become great to live up to his father. Following his incredible 2018 campaign, 2019 began on a lesser note, with Evans recovering from the flu. In his first 2 games, he only put up 89 yards, but he would explode against the Giants in Week 3, notching 190 yards and 3 touchdowns. In the next week, he would cash in a 67-yard TD and a 4-for-7 89-yard performance. The very next week, however, Mike would once again find himself stifled by the Saints, as he only had 3 targets all game, and didn't catch any of them. At least there weren't any extracurricular activities going on this time around. He responded with a 96-yard game against the Panthers, then a masterful 198-yard game against the Titans, where he went 11-12 with 2 touchdowns. And to top it off, he would have a 180-yard game the next week against the Seahawks, capping off a 3-game stretch where he gained 474 yards. However, his efforts weren't enough to help his team out, as they lost all 3 of those games. And after another pair of games that included another beating by the Saints, the Bucs sat at 3-7. Once again, they went on a run late in the season, as they would win against the Falcons and Jaguars, and Evans would pass the 1,000-yard mark for the 6th straight year, with his only company in history being Randy Moss. In Week 14, Evans hauled in a 61-yard touchdown against the Colts, but that would be all he would get, as he injured his hamstring on the play, and would miss the rest of the regular season. Still, his efforts were enough to get him his 3rd selection in the Pro Bowl, but a loss against the Texans in Week 16 all but killed the Bucs' slim playoff hopes, as they finished 7-9, in a year that would become known as the famous Jameis Winston 30 for 30 special. Evans would compete in basketball, football, and track in high school, quickly building a reputation for himself. And he was eventually recruited by Texas A&M, where he would light up the opposition.
Manziel from the end zone, deep down the middle, got a man! Evans with a foot race. Michael Evans, one man, Sunseri cannot stop him. Touchdown.
Also during this time, he would meet the love of his life, Ashel Dotson, who formed a bond upon first sight, and in 2016, they would get married. They went on to have 4 kids together, with Mike cherishing his time with his children, raising them to live a better childhood than he did. And together they founded the Mike Evans Family Foundation, committed to helping the youth grow into incredible people and stand against domestic violence.
I'm trying to be the best that I can be. I want her to have a better upbringing than me.
For 6 years now, Mike Evans has been in the NFL, and while he's put up incredible record-breaking numbers, he's still been unable to reach the playoffs. The closest he got was 2016, the only time during this stretch the Bucs had a winning record. But even then, the team seemed to be going in the wrong direction. Sure, Evans had found a home in Tampa Bay, being loved by his teammates and the fans, but the hunger to play for a winning team was undeniable, as he still searched for his first chance at competing for the Lombardi Trophy. For the longest time, it seemed the Bucs would never be able to pull themselves together, but that all changed on one winter day. Tom Brady and the Patriots represented the polar opposite of the Buccaneers. While Winston and his team floundered and blew their hopes away year after year, the Patriots were busy constructing the best dynasty the league had ever seen. The Bucs hadn't been in the playoffs since the 07-08 season, and only had a winning record twice since then. Meanwhile, in that same year, the Patriots went a perfect 16-0, and while they lost in the Super Bowl, at least they still got there, and they would appear in 5 more since then, winning 3 of them. They were 1 year removed from their 3rd Super Bowl appearance in a row, where Brady captured his 6th Super Bowl ring. But now, things have changed. The Patriots got knocked out in the wildcard round the previous season, and it was clear that Brady was on the way out. But of all the teams he could have chosen to go to, nobody expected Tampa Bay. Going from the most successful franchise of the past 20 years to one of the worst American pro sports teams ever was quite a jump. But for some, it seemed like the spark the team needed to finally become a true competitor. Growing up, Evans hated Brady, instead rooting for Peyton Manning. But as the two men worked together in training, and over the next few years, when the deal was official, all Mike felt was excitement and hope for the future. Despite COVID threatening the NFL, the league was able to start on schedule, just without any fans in attendance. Still recovering from that hamstring injury, Evans made only 1 catch in Week 1, though at least it was a touchdown. After another 100-yard game against the Panthers, he again got only 2 yards against the Broncos, but they both resulted in touchdowns, so I guess it works out. As he put up 122 yards against the Chargers, the Bucs jumped out to 3-1, the best start they've had in years. But despite the team's success, Evans would struggle once again, only posting 166 yards in the next 4 games. Despite putting up 2 touchdowns against the Chiefs in Week 12, he would only gain 50 yards, as the Bucs lost, dropping to 7-5. With 4 games left, he still needed 387 yards to reach 1,000. Not as dire as 2016, but it still once again put his streak in jeopardy. Luckily, him and the team would turn it around, as after an alright 56-yard game against Minnesota, he would put up 110 against the Falcons and 181 on the Lions, including 2 touchdowns, as the Bucs won their 3rd straight game. And finally, for the first time in his career, Mike Evans was playoff bound. However, heading into the final week, he was still 40 yards short of the mark, but Brady would make sure his teammate would get it, as in just the first quarter alone, he got a short pass for 12, another for 14, and a deep ball for 20 that got him over the line at 1,006, including breaking his record for most receiving touchdowns in a season with 13. Randy Moss, his only compadre left, only got 767 yards in year 7, meaning Evans was now all alone in the history books, with 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons to begin his career. However, that goal was secondary now, as finally, Mike Evans had a chance to compete in the NFL playoffs. His first playoff game came in the wildcard round against Washington, who came into the playoffs at 7-9. They put up a good fight, but Evans would leave his mark with a 119-yard game, setting the team record for most yards in a playoff game, as the Bucs held on for their first playoff win since Super Bowl 37. In the divisional round, they would face their old friends the Saints, where the game remained close. Evans would record his one and only catch for a touchdown, as the teams remained tied heading into halftime. Both teams would score a touchdown in the 3rd, and in the 4th, Ryan Suckup would give the Bucs a 3-point lead. When the team needed it most, the defense came up big, with Devin White intercepting Drew Brees, giving Brady the ball on a short field. He would cash in, giving the Bucs a 10-point cushion, and to seal the deal, Brees would be intercepted again, this time by Mike Edwards, as the Bucs got their revenge on the Saints and advanced to the NFC Championship. On a frigid day in Green Bay, Evans would once again get on the score sheet with a 15-yard touchdown. The Packers would answer back with a touchdown of their own, and with little time left in the half, the Bucs' lead was only 14-10. That's when Brady would connect with Scotty Miller with mere seconds left in the half to give the Bucs a 21-10 lead. Add on another touchdown after the break, and suddenly the Bucs were up 3 scores. However, Green Bay would make it close, as Evans would be intercepted as they would score 2 touchdowns, though they would miss the 2-pointer. Passes intended for Evans would be intercepted 2 more times, as Brady began to falter, but the defense held through as the teams exchanged field goals. Ultimately, the Bucs would survive the harsh winter, and in Evans' first postseason stint, he and the Bucs defeated 3 teams on the road to earn a berth in their ultimate home game. the Super Bowl, seen as the biggest event in all of American sports, was coincidentally being held in Tampa that year. So the Bucs got to play in their home stadium for the big game, the first time any team has done so. Certainly the pressure was felt by the team, who had taken the league by storm, but with Brady at quarterback, it seemed that anything was possible. Evans felt it too, but he was able to rise up and be a leader for his team in the biggest game of their lives.
I don't feel no pressure. No, I'm just going to do my job, prepare the best way possible, stay in the film room, treat my body, get real rested, and try to have my best performance.
In a rather anticlimactic ending, Evans would have one target all game, though at least he was able to convert it into 31 yards. The game was highlighted by Brady and Gronkowski hooking up for 2 touchdowns, a dominant performance from Leonard Fournette, and the defense playing absolutely lights out, keeping Mahomes and the Chiefs out of the end zone all game. It's the only time in Mahomes' entire playoff career that he's been held without a touchdown, as the game would quickly turn into a rout, as the Bucs, in front of their own fans in their own house, would trounce the Chiefs 31-9 and capture their second Lombardi trophy in franchise history.
Man, it was awesome to represent my city, Galveston, tonight. My past coaches, all my friends and family back in Galveston. As a kid, you dream for moments like this, and we were in position, and we got the job done. And we're world champions, and that's something that they can never take from me.
For Mike Evans, this moment, right here, is the culmination of everything he had been working to achieve. The struggles of his childhood, all the hard work in his high school and college days, the absolutely monumental expectations placed upon his shoulders as a first-round pick, and the incredible resume he's built up so far. Sure, putting up 7 1,000-yard seasons in a row is mighty impressive, and he's made his case as one of the best wide receivers in Bucs history. But now, he can finally call himself a Super Bowl champion. Of course, that only meant the team had to defend their title, as Evans entered year 8 of his career, another year to fight to keep the streak alive. The first game of the 2021 season yielded little results, only 24 yards. But the next week, he would once again score 2 touchdowns, putting up 75. And over the next 3 games, he would put up 294 more, including another 2 touchdowns against Miami. 2 weeks later, against the Bears, Evans would catch Brady's 600th career touchdown, in part of a 3-touchdown game. While his overall production wasn't anywhere near his incredible 2018 campaign, the team around him was still successful, as they won 7 of their first 10 games. Week 11 even saw Mike's first ever rushing attempt that actually went well as he gained 10 yards. Also during that game, he became the new franchise touchdown leader, passing Mike Allstott with 72. Despite back-to-back 90-plus yard games, Evans also had his fair share of duds, with a 16-yard game against the Colts and only 14 against the Saints before another hamstring injury led to him missing the rest of the game and the next. Heading into Week 17, Evans still needed 101 yards to reach 1,000, but he would only get 7 targets against the Jets, putting up 47 yards. Mike would finish with a 946 on the season. Well, all good things must come to an end eventually. Wait, you're telling me there's another game? Week 18? Well, okay. Evans would get one more chance against the Panthers, where a 14-yard gain and a big 37-yard run left him 3 yards away. And in the third quarter, Brady would once again give Evans the mark in the last game of the season. He would finish with 1,035, and now reached 8 years in a row, He was selected to his 4th Pro Bowl, as the Bucs were busy putting up the best record in franchise history, going 13-4, and heading into the playoffs as the number 2 seed. Going into the postseason, Evans and the Bucs were eager to defend their title, which began in the wildcard round against the Eagles. Evans would go 9 for 10 in the game, as the Bucs would crush Philly, scoring 31 unanswered to return to the divisional round. Against the Rams, however, Evans would struggle, as he would be shut down in the first. As the offense sputtered, Matthew Stafford would light up the defense, with Cooper Kupp torching them for a 70-yard touchdown run that put them in a 17-3 hole early in the second. 2 straight passes to Evans would fall incomplete, and on the next drive, while Evans was able to get the team moving with 42, Ryan Succop would miss the field goal, and the Bucs would find themselves down 17 heading into the half. It got worse in the third, as the Rams would score again, making it 27-3. However, the Bucs wouldn't quit, as a field goal and a touchdown would make it 27-13 as the game headed into the 4th quarter. Both teams' defenses would hold strong, and with 4 minutes left, it seemed to be all but over. However, Brady would launch one deep to Evans, who would run 55 yards to cut the deficit to 1 score.
Run for Evans, he makes the catch, he's in for the score!
The Rams would fumble on their next drive, and with a short field, Brady would somehow complete the comeback, as Fournette tied the game with 46 seconds left. However, the defense would be once again burned by Cooper Kupp, as 2 straight big gains set up Matt Gay to win the game for the Rams. Now, if only Succop hadn't missed that field goal earlier. An instant classic for sure, but one that ended in disappointment, as this Bucs team that was even better than last year didn't even make the NFC Championship. A team goes to the championships one year, and then the next they have an even better record, only to lose in the divisional round? Now, where have I seen that before? 2022 would end up being Brady's last season, as his age had finally begun to catch up to him, as the Bucs struggled right out of the gate. They won their first 2 games, with Evans making this incredible catch against the Cowboys, gaining 132 yards in those games. He would have another wonderful encounter with Marshawn Lattimore in Week 2, once again getting into a physical altercation and once again getting a 1-game suspension. Despite Evans continuing to play well, putting up 100-plus yard games against the Chiefs and Ravens, the team would lose 5 of their next 6, as it seemed that this season would be another wasted one. In Week 12 against the Browns, Evans would surpass 10,000 total yards, and a big win against the Saints the next week saw them surprisingly in first place? Yeah, the 2022 NFC South was pretty trash, but the Bucs would end up emerging as the kings of the shit pile, as despite a 2-3 finish to the season, the Panthers would help them out in Week 18, beating the Saints as the Bucs won the division at 8-9? Well, that's one way to claim your 3rd straight playoff berth. As for Evans, he would save his most masterful performance for Week 17, as he lit up the Panthers for 10 catches, 3 touchdowns, and 207 yards, easily clearing the 1,000 mark for the 9th year in a row. He had showcased indisputable consistency, broken many franchise records, and at this point, it became clear that he would become enshrined one day among the legends of former Bucs players. Now, whether he makes it into the NFL Hall of Fame remains to be seen, though I feel he's made a pretty strong case. The only thing left to do was to keep the streak going, which he looked to do for season number 10 in 2023. Wait. Oh yeah, the playoffs. Yeah, the Bucs had a playoff game. They got slapped by the Cowboys. Evans went 6 for 11 with 74 yards in Brady's final game. I mean, come on. Are we even surprised by this result? With Evans heading into the final year of his contract, the entire season came and went without a new deal, leaving his future with the team under question. If this was truly to be his last year with the Bucs, he looked to make it a memorable one. After a 66-yard game in Week 1, he put up his best game of the season, with 171 yards against the Bears. Under new quarterback Baker Mayfield, he would continue to remain solid, even as the Bucs would lose 4 in a row to drop to 3-5 once again. However, they would turn it around, fueled by a 143-yard game in Week 10 and a 162-yard game in Week 13. It was also during that game that he achieved the goal that many thought would be impossible: 10,000-yard seasons. Only Jerry Rice has him beat with 11, but there's a very real chance he can match him, as he finally got a 2-year contract with the Bucs in the offseason. He would finish with 1,255 on the season to conclude the quest for 10,000s, or 11,680 yards to be more specific. He sits at number 33 on the all-time leaderboard for receiving yards. He is the greatest wide receiver in Bucs history. In one final addendum, the Bucs would finish with 5 wins in their last 6, once again winning the division at 9-8. And in the wildcard round, they upset the Eagles at home, with Evans putting up 48 yards. In the divisional, while Evans did play well, going 8 for 12 with 147 yards and a touchdown, the Bucs would ultimately fall short to the Lions. Still, Tampa Bay has hope to continue being competitive in the future, as Evans now gets to chase his second ring. But even despite all that, throughout all he's achieved in his illustrious career, he's grown into a great football player that his father would surely be proud of. In 2014, Mike Evans was primed and ready to begin his NFL career, but not before he had one last meeting with the man who killed his father. Sam Kilgore had been sentenced to prison for 38 years, and in 2006, it was raised to life after he murdered his cellmate. Mike hated him and resented him for even existing, but he would still visit and communicate, and as time went on, both men realized that they were still family. Sam had confessed multiple times that he was sorry for what he did, and eventually, Mike came around.
And I just had to get over that. I was like, that's my family still. Even though he can't play God like that, but I love him. As time progressed, I just told him I forgave him. And that was it. And then we'll talk like nothing ever happened.
He would look to the future now as he built his incredible career, piling up yards like nobody else, rising to become one of the greatest Buccaneers of all time. His story is one not only of amazing talent and hard work, but of perseverance and adversity to overcome and get to where he is now. He had achieved his quest for 10,000 yards, but he had also achieved something even greater. He became the man his father had wanted him to be.
I never thought, come from Galveston, Texas, where I come from, it's hard to make it out of there. And, I did it. I had a lot of help, though. God's blessed me with a lot of great people around me. And I'm just blessed, man.